Here I'm looking through 11 medium heavy artifact creatures in my artifact cube, mostly centered around Miradan and Scars of Miradan blocks. These are 5, so they're pretty heavy. They would definitely work well in block constructed for either Miradan or Scars of Miradan, or if somebody wanted to have a lot of fun and combine both blocks into its own standard. But if whenever these cards that are 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 compete against other blocks that are much faster, these cards don't really stand much of a playing chance. Either way, I find them very interesting, and I'm going to play them in this cube. So here we have Spinal Parasite. It's a 5th Dawn uncommon. And then we also have Skyreach Manta, which is a common also from 5th Dawn. Both have Sunburst, which is a very interesting feature from 5th Dawn. So it allows you to put in +1/+1 counters for however many different flavors, different colors you play of the 5 possible ones. Spinal Parasite is very interesting because it's already a -1/-1, so you got to play at least 2 different colors of mana for this thing to even land on the battlefield. If you only played 1, it'd be dead on arrival. But you can play as many as 5, in which case it'd be a 4/4, and you paid 5 for it. That's not so bad. In the case of Skyreach Manta, same deal. You get a 4/4, but it would have flying. And what's interesting is that the Skyreach Manta is common, and the Spinal Parasite is uncommon. Well, clearly the feature that Spinal Parasite has is that you can remove 2 of its counters, and then that causes you to be able to remove a counter from your opponent's target permanent. Well, you have to be playing a game against somebody who's using counters. If they're not, there's not much use you're going to have for that ability. Then you've got 2 more cards from the Miradan block. You've got an Arcbound, another Arcbound, a Bruiser, and Clockwork Vorik. So another Clockwork. Before we had, in another video, I'm talking about Clockwork Condor. So there's definitely a bunch of Clockwork cards and a bunch of Arcbound cards. In the case of the Bruiser, it's got modular 3, so it comes in as a 3/3, and then you can scavenge that. You can use up those counters when it dies, and that's pretty good because in total you can get 6/6 out of a 5 play. That isn't so bad. First, when I was reading modular, I was thinking, oh, 5 for 3/3, but then I realized it's like on dying. You get a bonus when the thing dies the first time. Then you have Clockwork Vorik. It's got Trample. That's a very useful ability. It's a Miradan uncommon. The Bruiser is a Darksteel common, and so this thing loses +1/+1 counters, but you can tap it and put some counters back. And it's got Trample, so that I think is pretty useful. Then we've got Darksteel Golem, which is also a Darksteel common. It's got affinity for swamps. Anytime that I read affinity, I think playable. I don't know how playable this card is, but if it's got affinity, it means that you could potentially play it for 0 cost. And it's got Fear, which I think is a version of Intimidate, if I'm correct. And then also we have Precursor Golem, which is part of my salting from Scars of Miradan for this cube. When it enters the battlefield, you put 2 3/3 Golem artifact creature tokens onto the battlefield. That's pretty good. I wonder if you could also flicker this card with a Restoration Angel, if you could pay the money, and do some serious damage. Do like it's happening a lot with Restoration Angel with Thragtusk these days. There's a way to copy spells in the text. I'd have to play this card to understand how viable it is. It's a 5 for 3/3. That's not terrible to start with, but also the fact that it lays down those tokens can't hurt. Here's more salting from other blocks. Manor Gargoyle, it's an Innistrad rare. It's got Defender at 4/4. It's indestructible as long as it has Defender. But if you pay 1 until end of turn, it loses Defender and it becomes a 4/4 flying creature. I haven't played this card, don't understand how well it could be played. Kuldotha Forge Master. Kuldotha, don't know. I'm doing the best I can to pronounce some of these cards. You gotta sacrifice 3 artifacts to be able to tutor out or dig a card out of your library and artifact. It better be a good one, but I'm sure that it's a technique you can use, say, to dig out a Wormcoil Engine out of your library. Then you've got Narstad Scrapper. Gets +1, +0 until end of turn if you plop in 2 more. It's a 5 for 3/3. It's definitely common. Seems alright. Clone Shell. It's got a long text. Comes in as a 2/2. You can look at the top 4 cards of your library through the imprint ability. Then when it dies, you can turn one of the exile card face up that you picked up already, and if it's a creature card, you put it onto the battlefield under your control. Sounds like a reanimator ability where you could put down a very heavy card without paying its mana cost. I would have to read about this card and perhaps even play it to understand it better. And then Darksteel Juggernaut, which I've played against in Standard when it was in Standard, seems like a pretty good card. If you can control a bunch of artifacts, that's as many as you give it power and toughness, so that's pretty good. It is indestructible and attacks each turn of Able. That's also pretty good. So that's a bunch of more artifacts. These are really heavy at 5, all 5s. In today's world of really fast, low CMC decks for most colors, a lot of these cards would have problems, but in a casual environment, all is fair and all is fun.